Hey guys, happy Equinox 2024. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the astrology associated with our equinox energy. And I like to look at the energy of any, equinox or solstice. That's what the equinoxes, of course, represent when we have equal light and dark, the spring one marking sort of, the rebirth of the sun in the context of the light gaining influence between now and the summer solstice that'll be coming up here. The equinoxes and the solstices mark quarter points in the year. Of course, we begin our natural new year each year with the spring equinox, leading then into the summer solstice when we have the most light, and then the autumnal equinox, again, when we have balanced light and dark, and then, of course, moving to the winter solstice when we have the least light, and then from that time on through the spring solstice, light is growing until we get again to not the spring solstice, the spring equinox, till we get to the spring equinox where we're at today, and again have equal light and dark before the light takes over. So just a sort of, brief encapsulation of what the equinoxes are. I'm sure you guys are all pretty much quite familiar with that, but I like to look at the energy of any equinox chart, especially a spring equinox, because it's going to the natal chart of our spring equinox each year, where all the planets are placed and the aspects they're making to each other are going to give us some insight into what is going to be unfolding throughout the course of this four-step process from spring equinox all the way around that cycle I was just referring to back to spring equinox. So it really is sort of giving us a snapshot of the year ahead from the natural new year perspective. So the energy that we are going to talk about today, you can apply everything I'm saying to the energy to, Wednesday, Wednesday, March 20th. Itself, also later in the day on the 19th, like I said, the sun moves to 0.0 degrees of Aries at 11:07 p.m. Eastern time, 3:07 Universal time the following day. So technically, according to Universal time, it's happening on the 20th this year, but it's also happening at 11 p.m. and, on the 19th, depending just on where you're located. So that's the deal with that. So, energy today can be applied to, everything I'm saying, as I said, can be applied to what we have going on today itself. But today itself is a special day in foreshadowing what is going to be unfolding throughout the course of this next natural new year from spring equinox to spring equinox. This is also, of course, formally bringing to a close this past 2023 natural new year as we move into this energy of the sun entering the sign of Aries. So rebirth of the reign of the sun for this next couple of months, and this spring equinox, you guys, we're going to be talking about it, but the aspects, the planetary patterns and planets or transits that we have going on are indicating, if you're following the astrology generally, 2024 is a year of great personal transformation and dynamic change. But we again have this being represented in our equinox chart itself, specifically actually by the moon's placement. And really, the moon can be anywhere. When we're talking about an equinox, the sun is always at 0 degrees of the sign of Aries. That's what gives us our equinox. And of course, then the earth, always in a polar opposition to the sun, would be representing 0 degrees of the sign of Libra, the cardinal signs. That's another thing. The equinoxes and the solstices also represent the cardinal signs and the cardinal seasons and the action-oriented times of year. That's another thing that we have when we have strong cardinal energy. This is an action-oriented time of initiating change when we're at the cardinal phases. And the equinoxes, as I said, and the solstices are also representing of the cardinal seasons and the cardinal signs. So just another little tidbit about the equinoxes. However, we have a Leo moon that is happening in association with our equinox this year. And at the moment of the sun's ingress into the sign of Aries, the moon in Leo is going to be in a near exact trine to the sun at just 3 degrees of the sign of Leo as the sun enters 0 degrees of Aries. So we have a fire sign trine that is setting up in the context of the luminaries for our natural new year, our equinox chart this year. So you can bet that it's going to be a pretty fired up year this year, you guys. You can bet on these like bursts of like creative impulse and like inspiration that are moving things forward, that are like lighting the fire under us. And there's just likely to be sort of like a passionate inspired, creative, like gusto sort of that is an underlying theme throughout the course of the year. Now, there are quite a few other underlying themes, and we're going to be talking about all of them as we move through this video in terms of course, like I said, we're going to address all of the transits that we have present and how they're fitting together nicely, and then overall, you know, what this little package of energy is likely to indicate in terms of the greater themes unfolding throughout the course of our natural new year this year. However, like, let me just go ahead first off and list to you guys the transits that we have going on, and then I'm going to talk about each of them in some more detail and what they're bringing to the table, and then, as I said, you know, how sort of the whole thing goes together and what it might mean for us on like a greater collective level. So we do have, here's another thing. You guys know that we just had Pluto enter the sign of Aquarius, right? Aquarius makes a sextile aspect to Uranus. It goes Aquarius, or not to Uranus, to Aries. So it goes Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and sextile aspects, these are skip a sign aspects, and they're like facilitating aspects. They're known as, you know, relatively harmonious. They help things to happen, and they're generally positive aspects when we have a sextile going on between planets. And I told you guys, if you remember, the moon is also in the sign of Leo, very early degrees of Leo, forming a trine to the sun, and of course the very, you know, the very first degree, 0 degrees of the sign of Aries. But the moon in Leo, right, if it's early degrees of Leo, what aspect is the moon making? I just said that Pluto, as you guys know, as we know, and if you've been following astrology, you know one of the big deals about 2024 also is Pluto's entrance into the sign of Aquarius in the early degrees of Aquarius. We currently have Pluto at 1 degree of the sign of Aquarius. We've got the sun, right, always at 0 degrees of Aries on our equinox, in a sextile aspect to the sign of Aquarius, the skip a sign, positive, facilitating, assisting energy to Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius, and then the moon in Leo opposing Pluto and trining the sun. So we have both luminaries really intertwined with Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, the Phoenix rising energy. This is profound and powerful transformation, regeneration, but there's definitely like sort of a, you know, death and rebirth air to things when we're dealing with the plutonic energy. It takes us really deep, it breaks us down to our most foundational levels, but then, you know, we learn to put ourselves back together in a more evolved and upgraded way. And in the sign of Aquarius, we are really going to be awakening to maybe some deep secrets or some deep hidden truths or some, you know, some of the more deeper, more latent aspects of ourselves even, or of our potential, or just what we have within that is going to be seeking to surface, and that is we're going to be awakening to. Powerful awakenings coming throughout the course of this next year. But when we're talking about our main aspect, the closest, tightest aspect of our equinox chart, featuring Pluto in the very beginning of Aquarius with both of our luminaries and the sun and the moon in these fire sign trines, we know that this is just going to be a year of very, very powerful rebirth energy, very, very powerful transformation energy. And it's also energy that seeks to like pull our best selves out of us by way of helping us to stand in our power, helping us to sort of like take the reins in our own experience, helping us to dispel any illusions of like powerlessness and need to seek less external validation for, you know, what we know that we're capable of, or the vision that we, you know, feel ourselves needing to move towards or become or attain somehow as we move through this period of time. There's definitely likely to be this fired up, you know, sense of courage, strength, motivation, and also the mind to move forward towards something new this year, to totally perhaps redefine ourselves this year. And there's also definitely likely to be a very strong tendency or theme in regards to healing from old wounds and like finally getting over things, finally letting some things go, and the impact that actually has on our ability to move forward and to become something new, and maybe, you know, expand our vision of really truly what is possible for ourselves. This is definitely going to be a year where spiritual awakenings on a more mass collective level are likely to be kind of a commonplace occurrence, and also a sense of emerging individual willpower that is, you know, redefining our world, be it on the macrocosm, like at large world stage level, or just in our own individual personal lives. As I said, let me list these aspects before I like launch all off into the tangents about what it all means. So we have the Pluto aspects going on. We've got the moon trining the sun. This is, of course, it's harmonious though. It's facilitating our ability to sort of put our big boy and girl pants on and like go after what it's like restoring a life force. You know what I mean? The moon in the sign of Leo, the moon in the sign of the sun. This is an emotional facilitation to like bring something back to life, like reinvigorate us, like re-inspire us somehow. And it's going to be along the lines also of this like rebirth energy. We're talking about the equinox happening, right? The re-emergence of the light being the dominant theme. So, you know, that taken as a metaphor to a lot of the struggles perhaps that we've been going through, a lot of maybe the battles that we've been fighting as well. There's going to be some successes that have been a long time coming also, I feel like, throughout the course of this year. And there's going to be also, you know, a lot of shocks and surprises and stuff like that. All right, let me get back to the aspects. We have the sun trining the moon, and then the Pluto deal. The moon opposing Pluto's powerful. The moon opposing Pluto, this is also very like powerfully reflecting on perhaps some emotional experiences that we have had, the impact that they have had on us, and perhaps a process of purge, regeneration, and renewal of our emotional body that could be going on over this period of time as well. And there are themes of like the inner child, early childhood, things from the past also that have maybe held us back in some way or kept us bound to previous cycles that have been diminishing our ability to truly like reach our greater potential and stuff. That type of thing being broken through and coming to an end and being emphasized as well. But anyways, we've got the sun and the moon and the Pluto situation, right? And then another really important aspect that we have represented in our equinox chart is this triple conjunction that we are in the midst of right now, and I've been talking about this. This is a Mercury North Node Chiron conjunction. Chiron and the North Node have been in conjunction for a couple of weeks now. This is sort of like a collective hero's journey. Chiron is the wounded healer, teacher, master archetype. When we're dealing with strong Chiron energy, this is how our states of victimhood have defined our experience in a way that is less than what is truly like a reflection of our soul, and the journey that we have to go on to release ourselves from these states of victimhood, to go through a process of inner transmutation and alchemization, to, you know, reach the higher states of self-mastery where we can let go and forgive and no longer be defined by the wounding and the previous weaknesses which may have defined our entire reality, our entire lives, or our entire like generations, or, you know, families and stuff up until this point in time. This is massive cycle breaking energy when we're talking about the North Node and Chiron together. And then we're adding Mercury right now as well. It just happens to be, Mercury is a very fast moving planet, so it's not coincidental. Like, there is a significance that Mercury, the messenger planet, would be in alignment with the Chiron North Node conjunction for the equinox. So, you know, with the Pluto situation, we know the sun and the moon, this is, you know, both on a spirit and soul level, like our character and also who we are on like the most deep internal levels, going through a powerful reflection period that is facilitating our ability to step into our power and, you know, like become a conscious creator sort of our experiences moving forward as a result of Mercury, North Node, Chiron, gaining an awareness of perhaps the karmic cycles that we have been caught up in, or, you know, the generational cycles, or the states, how the states of, you know, maybe victimhood that we have defined ourselves by have been, you know, keeping us attached to a state that is less than who we really are and what we truly could become once we are, you know, go through the process where we can shift our perspective in such a way that actually frees us from those karmic cycles of the past. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. When we're dealing with, you know, Chiron energy, when we're dealing with needing to overcome challenges that have broken us, I feel like, most people who have gone through that will tell you at the end of the process, it really came down to a shift in perspective, deciding, to start seeing myself and seeing the circumstances in a different way that, allows me to see what I've gained through that process of whatever I've been through, as opposed to just perpetually, seeing myself as a victim. And also, as a result of that, or on the side of that, being able to see where perhaps I have maybe unconsciously, maybe unknowingly, maybe just as a result of what I've been caught in or trapped in, played a role, played my own role in my own, perpetual process of whatever I'm trying to get out of now. It's an ability to awaken to where we have sabotaged ourselves, perhaps why we have done that, shifting our perspective in such a way that we realize that maybe unknowingly, maybe unconsciously, we had somehow been participating in our own, self-sabotaging cycles, or there's some role that we had been energetically playing that had somehow been keeping us attached to these reoccurring events, or to these patterns, or to these situations, or to these just like never ending cycles. And when we're able to have that mindset or that perspective shift, when we're able to see through what is causing this on the deeper root level, it allows us to actually release ourselves from a lot of the patterns, because just gaining the awareness is like turning that light bulb on, creates a reaction where we're likely to make different choices and different decisions as we're seeing things different, that can shift and alter our relationship to that energy, which in turn can help to break us out of these patterns and cycles. And the more that we actively choose not to participate in the subconscious programs that we're discovering were a result of maybe like our traumatic experiences that we had been through and stuff, the less enmeshed and attached we're going to be to experiencing those patterns perpetuating over and over and again. This whole period of time right now, this whole year, has so much to do with helping us to break out of karmic cycles of the past that have done just that, kept us on this loop based on subconscious programming rooted in maybe childhood trauma, or where we've been wounded, what we've been holding on to, what like our own shadow side issues that we haven't been paying attention to, that have really been defining a lot of our interactions with others and our circumstances and all of that. Gaining, the moon in Leo, the sun in Aries, this fire sign energy, all of this illumination, dealing with the Lord of the underworld, shining a light into like the deeper recesses of our psyches in such a way that helps us to gain awareness of what has been holding us back, essentially. And I do think, this Mercury North Node Chiron conjunction, I think there is going to be a greater than normal emphasis, theme, kind of collectively this year, narrative perhaps, on talking about like trauma, wounding, psychologically, emotionally, the impacts of that, and simultaneously how to heal from that. So we're going to come back to that. I want to say the rest of the aspects before I just continue talking about energy of specific aspect. We also have the sun and Neptune in a conjunction as well. We also have Venus and Saturn building into a conjunction. And then, of course, the defining energy that we have this 2024 year, Jupiter and Uranus coming into a conjunction as well. So those are the rest of the aspects we're going to be talking about in the context of our equinox chart. Let's go back now to the Mercury North Node Chiron conjunction. As I said, a lot of people are going to be like unpacking previous issues this year that maybe they had totally like not even realized were playing a role in, a lot of their behaviors and thought processes, and like the way that they've been doing things and the life circumstances that they find themselves in now. We will find ourselves gaining, I do feel like, as we go through this year, a much deeper and more valuable understanding of the purpose behind the events and experiences of our lives, the things that have defined us in the past and why. I just think people are going to be more mentally geared to trying to process, to trying to understand, to trying to get to the root of things, to trying to like learn about themselves also, and like why they behave in certain ways, you know, why they have certain reactions, why we get triggered by certain things. There's likely to just be like some type of an emerging attention or appeal or attraction to understanding how trauma affects the psyche and affects the life, you know, going forward into the future. In, you know, some type of more just like broad sense, okay? A spiritual awakening leading to a personal rebirth will probably be a common collective experience as a byproduct of the influx of this energy, you know, just generally throughout the course of this year. Themes of trauma, specifically, as I said, childhood trauma. Chiron rules childhood trauma because, you know, in the mythology, Chiron was abandoned as a baby, and this is really sort of what started his whole journey through the, well, what's known as the hero's journey, but also, you know, the whole themes and archetypes represented in the Chiron energy, the wounding, the betrayal wound, and then having to become the healer and the teacher, and ultimately reaching this state of you know, he becomes the constellation Sagittarius in the sky. He becomes like ultimately invincible and everlasting, you know, after achieving this state where he's released from the suffering associated with the wounds of the past. And again, this is the wounded healer teacher. This is the hero's journey. And interesting also, Chiron was also the teacher of all the great heroes, you know, like Hercules and Perseus, and like all of the great heroes in the mythology were taught by Chiron. And Chiron right now is in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars would be associated with the heroes of the mythology, as Mars is the masculine energy, you know, that has everything to do with all of that. So this is a strong placement for Chiron, and the process, I'm telling you guys, like what we're going through now, our own individual hero's journey, which is being represented collectively at this time as well. It is, you know, causing us to need to become our own knight in shining armor, you know, to be there to save our own day. It's our own personal leadership era, and we are discovering, you know, a courage and a strength and like an assertiveness and a tenacity and ability to stand on our own 2 feet, and independence, like a passion, a fervor, you know what I mean? Even perhaps even a fury that is motivating us to move forward, to differentiate ourselves, to speak up for ourselves, you know, to put our foot down in perhaps a way that is quite foreign to us, maybe our entire lives up until now. But I do think that a lot of people are just going to have this burning fervor coming within them that causes people to, like, you know, take a stand, assert themselves, and just be more commanding in the experience of their own lives, what they will and will not tolerate, and the path that they're going to be walking going forward. But, you know, then we also have these themes of wounding and healing. Specifically, as I said, the childhood trauma, Chiron does rule like early childhood trauma. And remember, we also have the moon in the sign of Leo. Children, Leo rules children as well, opposite Pluto, which is the lord of the underworld. This is, you know, the darker side of life, okay? So being represented in 2 different places that are both of, you know, prominence and significance in the equinox chart, there are strong references to early childhood trauma and the impact that it's had on how we've defined ourselves, and this point in time representing a point in time where we're going to be breaking through that paradigm, taking back our power, and actually being able to release, forgive, transmute, and transcend what perhaps, you know, has held us back in the past. And as a result of that, we're going to become much more in alignment and able to ascend essentially into, you know, something that feels much more purposeful to us, something that feels much more in alignment with the truth of our soul, you know what I mean? Like really being able to activate a higher purpose, a higher potential, a higher layer or level of destiny within us that feeds our soul in a way that is much more fulfilling and authentic in terms of our, life experiences going forward as well. So ultimately, these are going to be changes, and, the ways that we are redefining our life are going to be much more fulfilling to us on these soul levels. But we're probably going to have to go through, it's a hero's journey collectively that we're dealing with right now in order to gain the wisdom through the experience that is going to carry us forward in this more commanding, self-empowered way. We're going to have to figure out that we have that in us, and how we figure out that we have that in us is through going through experiences where we have no choice other than to pull it out of ourselves. So that is likely to be a theme coming on over the course of this year as well. Now, the whole trauma thing, but also the flip side of the trauma is the healing as well, with Mercury there. Mercury is what we're learning about, what we're talking about, the information and the nature of the information and communication, news. And so while on one hand, there is likely to be a greater emphasis on, trauma, wounding, stuff like that going on this year, also, there is likely to be a greater than normal emphasis on how to heal from that. People like more en masse learning about or gaining a greater understanding generally of, techniques and methods and ways to heal from, overcome, and release past emotional or psychological trauma. So this also, I think, is going to be something that people are more generally talking about and gaining a greater awareness of over this period of time as well. And of course, ultimately, when the light is shown on something, it loses its power, it loses its grip, it loses its control. So as we gain deeper awareness of the root issues that perhaps have been holding us back, this is also going hand in hand with the concept of breaking these karmic cycles, which is also indicated by the times that we are moving through now this year and moving forward. So the outcome will be breaking through these cycles as individuals choose to release, as I was talking earlier, the mindsets and the perspectives from the past that may have unknowingly, unconsciously been keeping us attached, enmeshed with, and caught up in these previous states of victimhood that were essentially, causing us to deny our own truths in a lot of ways. And these are truths, as I sit here and speak of this now, that we may not even come to realize for still, a period of time. I do think a lot of what I'm describing in this energy is actually the beginning of a process that may take the next 18 to 20 years to unfold, to become truly realized, seen, and understood for what it is, what it will be, what it can become. I think that a lot of what this North Node, because the North Node is the destiny point. I don't know if I said that yet. I talked a lot about the Chiron influence. We talked about Mercury being the messenger planet. But it's also interesting. Here's another little tangent that my mind went off on. Hermes, Mercury, is the only one of the gods in the mythology that can travel back and forth from the underworld. So that's another little connection with this whole thing to me as well. We've got both luminaries in their relationship with Pluto for this equinox chart, the Lord of the underworld. And then we've also got, so we know that this is gaining the deeper awareness that's leading to some type of transformation on both, the inner and outer levels, the spiritual, or the levels that are associated with our character and our spirit and our outward presentation, what makes us thrive and shine, the sun, and also the moon, the internal environment, our feelings, what's going on inside of us. Then we've got the Pluto underworld connection. Then we've also got Hermes, the messenger planet, the only one that can go back and forth between the underworld with Chiron and with the North Node. There's literally, and the reason to me that is, some type of relevance is because of the, it's like seeing into the darkness, seeing into the shadow, getting down into the root, getting down into the core, really looking at what's been festering under the surface, and then having the mind to do something about it, having the mental energy, the mental perspective to figure out how that happened and how to make sure it doesn't happen again. And then this being something that is happening on a more collective level in alignment with the collective phase of evolution that we're in right now, the collective destiny, the North Node in the sign of Aries. And through going through this process, we are going to find what we really are made of. And that is going to be shocking to a lot of people as well. I think when we realize what we're truly capable of, that maybe we literally just didn't realize or didn't know, or even perhaps were hiding from, okay? I do feel like we're going to, just more collectively in small ways and big ways here and there and everywhere, be coming up against situations that force us to pull out our best. And once we've done that, you can't really like go back to the old bar once you realize, okay, like I'm actually capable of this. So that's just, the way that the Pluto, Sun, Moon energy and the Mercury, North Node, Chiron energy are coming through. I just think that that's what we're looking at. And again, Pluto, this is beginning a 20-year transit. North Node and Chiron, this only happens every 18 years or so. Like, these energies happening together, starting something now that we may not realize. A lot of people are not going to realize what they're actually doing until they get down the road. And it could be, quite significantly down the road. There's also energy coming through. You guys remember I said we're also going to be talking about Saturn, Venus in a conjunction. That is delayed gratification. So another thing I will say right now, and I'll talk about this energy more in a minute, we're going to talk about actually the Sun and Neptune next. But Venus and Saturn, delayed gratification, again, the things that we're moving towards now, the value that we're, seeing the glimpses of, like, a lot of it is not truly going to be mined in a way that makes sense to us until maybe like a bit down the road. But nonetheless, like, that is what is being indicated to be being rooted or being started, being planted, one might say, in the spring equinox energy. So Mercury, North Node, Chiron, this is going to liberate, the self, ultimately liberate the mind to become more and to move forward. Aquarian energy right now, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. This is also about empowering the individual, decentralized form of power and self-governance also, but primarily, ultimately empowering a process of self-actualization in alignment with activating some higher level of destiny. I say this all the time. Aquarius energy seeks to facilitate the proper unfolding of what is meant to come into fruition, of the destiny, of the cosmic blueprint. When there are blockages to growth in alignment with that greater cosmic plan, this is where Uranus comes through and levels things in order so that things can get back on track. It makes the changes for us we haven't been able to make for ourselves. Uranus, the galactic fixer. And so, when we're talking about strong Aquarian energy, when we're talking about strong Uranian energy with Pluto right there and making aspects to the luminaries, this is also empowering a process of, Phoenix energy, death and rebirth energy, purge, purification, ultimately though, renewal, transformation, rebirth energy, so that we can become more, so that we can become better, so that we can achieve what it is that we're truly capable of, which Uranus in the sign of Taurus, this is also something we have been talking about and we'll talk about more as we get through this report, awakening to the truth of potential within and learning to trust ourselves more, learning that we can depend on ourselves, learning that we can meet our own needs perhaps in a way that maybe, again, we had felt powerless to in the past somehow, whether it be in small ways or whether it be in more all-encompassing ways. This is the way that energy is moving things right now and as we go throughout the course of this year. So, the fire trine, this is going to be these creative bursts of inspiration that are likely to be coming through, that are probably going to be a feature of the energy throughout this year. It's also probably going to be, now let's move in and talk about the Sun-Neptune conjunction. It's probably also going to be a bit disorienting, a bit confusing. There could definitely be like a supernatural kind of just like vibe to things that are going on this year. Perhaps hard to decipher what is real and what is really going on in some instances. Things could be, a bit cloudy and, we may find ourselves really questioning a lot as we go throughout the course of this year, like reality stranger than fiction, you know what I mean? Like, as I was saying, it could be like a bit otherworldly or this like supernatural flair to things that are going on. You may find yourself questioning reality this year more than normal. Like, is this real or am I dreaming? Somebody pinched me. Did I see what I just thought I did? Because if I did, that makes no sense at all. Like that type of thing with the Sun also in a conjunction to Neptune. We have Neptune currently at 28 Pisces, while we have the sun at 0 Aries. Of course, this is out of sign, but they are still in a close proximity. Neptune and Pisces, this is super powerful Neptunian influence because Neptune rules Pisces. So there's that, all right? Like the nature of things on a more existential level this year could really have us questioning a lot. Also, you know, we've got Saturn in the sign of Pisces as well, a lot from the past. There's also likely to be a breakdown in a lot of the foundations and the structures and the governments and the authority, essentially, that we have been used to for a long time coming, or at least getting started throughout the course of this year as well. Another defining energy this year, let's talk now about the Venus-Saturn conjunction, could have to do with cutting back on spending money, socializing, being sort of like agreeable and open and like more go with the flow. I do think that people are going to be putting up stronger boundaries generally this year. And of course, again, this theme of delayed gratification whenever we are dealing with Saturn and Venus. This is a more socially withdrawn type of energy, maybe like the desire to retreat, the desire to be sort of more introverted and withdrawn generally this year. It does put up very strong boundaries, of course, when it comes to other people, when it comes to like money and partnerships and financial situations and stuff. Sort of like some strict lines could be drawn this year. And it expects the best too. This is a success, like a material success oriented Venusian energy. It refines tastes, it refines preferences, values, appearance, desires, and it brings a maturation in terms of who we are, you know, what we want, what we're attracted to, what we're drawn to, what we value, what we want to be associated with. And it's just an energy that is looking to succeed, looking to create success. Again, delayed gratification. This could be long-term. This could be like long-term investments. Saturn is also like very well thought out, very good attention to detail, like some really good investments could be going on during this period of time, like monetary investments, mature commitments, mature romance and stuff like that, indicated by this type of energy, creating lasting value when we have Venus and Saturn coming together. But we have to remember also, this is happening in the sign of Pisces. So while on one hand, there will be expressions of the traditional Venus-Saturn energy when they're in a conjunction, Pisces, you guys, this is also a sign that breaks things down. So there could also be breakdowns in the things that Venus and Saturn together represent that have been going on for long periods of time. So we could see the ending, the breakdown, the erosion of, the dissipation of, sort of like the washing away of, in this watery Pisces energy of, you know, financial partnerships or authorities or governments or long-standing deals, negotiations, commitments, you know, stuff like that, alliances, financial based partnerships, like projects that perhaps have been like underway for a long period of time and there's like no, I don't know, that just need to end somehow. I don't know, but that's definitely another way that this energy could manifest in terms of like coming to the end of commitments that have been withholding for periods of time, but that have like reached their disillusion point. I don't know right now. Finally though, let's get into the last aspect, like I said, and this is probably the most defining energy of 2024. I'm sure you guys all know about it. We talk about it all the time. This is the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus that is coming April 16th in the sign of Taurus. This is the loosest aspect conjunction that we have going on for our equinox chart, but it probably is just going to be as much of a potent vibration as any, because of course it is defining the course of this 2024 year, you know, entirely. It's a huge energy. We're talking about Uranus, the great disruptor, sudden and dynamic change, the galactic fixer. We've already talked a lot about the energy of this planet and, you know, ruler of Aquarius in this video. But Jupiter, this is the planet of expansion. Jupiter supersizes, expands, enhances, amplifies whatever it comes into contact with. So we are heading rapidly right now towards a period of some massive shakeups, upsetting comfort zones, upheaval, forcing us again again, to find this resiliency, the strength, the willpower that shows us who we really are, that shows us who we're truly capable of, that awakens us on some level, that allows us to, let go of our past view or vision or version of ourselves where we were perhaps defined by a state of victimhood rather than by a state of personal power that allows us to move forward in our lives and playing a much more commanding role in our experiences. This energy will force us to find our resiliency, our strength, our willpower, our value, our potential, and even our pride on one level. With the Leo moon happening as well, life is going to show us that we are truly more powerful, we are truly more capable, we are truly more resilient and stronger and more courageous than perhaps we had imagined, that we can depend on ourselves, that we can trust ourselves to be more than we thought we were. And of course, this is also going to have the inadvertent effect of releasing us from cycles where we had surrendered our power perhaps, and also causing us to be more assertive in defining our experiences, consciously creating our path moving forward instead of unconsciously attracting and drawing to ourselves a reflection of the unhealed, unresolved, unnoticed, perhaps wound, trauma, shadows existing within us as a result perhaps of a lifetime of struggling without being able to have an ability to see the origins of what has been causing that. So, profound times of change, again, being indicated by the equinox chart that we have going on for 2024. And also this day, if you guys are just here to find out about the astrology of the day, it's also going to probably be a pretty powerful day. There's a very creative energy, probably very inspired energy, very fired up energy, and we could be coming face to face with maybe some of our own inner demons or some of our own fears, or just this powerful realization perhaps of what we've been through, where we are now, how the experiences that we have encountered have defined us, what we've become as a result of that process. And perhaps maybe we can let go, maybe we can move on, maybe we can decide to learn how to heal ourselves and to stop perpetuating situations that are just not who we are anymore. Rebirth, transformation, personal power, activating destiny. This is where the times are leading us, whether or not we're aware of it, striving for higher, striving for more, ultimately this process of self-actualization. This year will be an action-oriented year, probably an action-oriented day, very creative and active time of transformation and change. So that's what I'm going to say, you guys, about our equinox energy as it's coming together for us. All of the, moments, I feel like when we looked at our January 1st chart, when we looked at our equinox, and we will also look at the energy for the new moon in Aries that will also come, coming up when the sun and the moon align and we begin our new lunar year, which happens each year when we get the new moon in Aries. That chart will also give us a glimpse of the year ahead in a slightly different way, but I have a feeling it's going to be saying pretty much the exact same things, because all the energy right now is pointing essentially to the exact same things, which are just this time of epic change. It's just a bit of a different way that it's written in each of the charts. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. That's what I feel like the energy for today and where we're going this year, what it's doing for us. Let's get a synchronicity card now. God, Spirit, Universe, what is a piece of advice that we can count to sort of, define or be applicable or appropriate throughout the course of this whole year that our equinox energy is representing right now? What does it benefit us to keep in mind? What's sort of the defining nature of advice maybe that would be good for us to take this year? Let's get a card. One card, any card. What's it gonna be? Here we go. You will be guided. There you go. Like I said, there is, that's another thing with Mercury and the North Node together. This is faded, information or faded contacts or faded news or just conversations that we're having, learning something that is significant to our process of healing and release from these karmic cycles. And you will be guided. This is our this is what we need to pay attention to or keep in mind as we're moving through this year and this day. Sent his angel to show the things which shortly must be done, Revelation 22:6. Shortly you will be shown the direction you should take. The way will open up for you to move forward. Seize the opportunity that comes to you. Know you are being divinely guided. Listen to the voice within, right? And all of this North Node Aries energy going on. This is like the Carpe Diem, seize the day type of energy. We are moving forward. Things are changing. We are, you know, entering like a whole new frontier. We're shifting into like a new personal paradigm of our own experiences, unencumbered by the mindsets, the perspectives, and the subconscious programming associated with the traumas of the past. And, you know, as we move through this year and the next couple of decades, we're going to be released, and we're going to find ourselves released from, you know, a lot of the like just more negative perceptions of ourselves, of our potential, our possibility, and what we truly deserve and are capable of moving forward. I'm going to stop talking now, you guys. This is the Synchronicity card. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends if you think that they would also be interested in this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, you guys. I'm so grateful for your presence here. If you are having experiences that reflect what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. If you want to know what is on this whiteboard, I take a picture of those and post them in a Facebook group that I have linked in my description box below. Jana Shulman, the creator of the Synchronicity cards, she also posts the Synchronicity cards over there, so if you want a closer look at them, that's where you will find those as well. And come back with me on Friday, you guys. We are going to get into a weekend of astrology that we have coming up that is leading us into the full moon lunar eclipse that is coming on Monday, and I will be here to talk about it. You should be here too. You don't want to miss it. I will see you then, guys. Have a beautiful equinox, and until next time, bye.